ChatGPT is awesome. We use it all the time. But how good is it in generating X-ray images of everyday objects, including toasters, coffee makers, and electronic components? Let's find out. Synthetic image generation is something that's been around for a while. It's when you use algorithms and other types of computer processes to generate images. And AI is absolutely brilliant at doing that. Tony thought, what if we generate some X-ray images? How good AI is at that? So here's what we did. Tony sent me some ChatGPT generated X-ray images, and you're gonna see how well AI is doing today. So here on the left is a ChatGPT image of a PCB. That was the cues that were used to come up with this image. On the right is a real X-ray image out of our book, by the way. If you haven't downloaded our book yet, please do so. We're gonna have a link on the comments. So here, let's take a look at what's some of the funny things about. Here you go. Thanks, Tony. That's the book. So go ahead and download it and order your copy. As an X-ray image, kind of looks like an X-ray image, right? But then you look at, for example, these through holes. So white is air, and as you can see, it made what looks like resistors all holes on the PCB, which they shouldn't be. Maybe it thought it was mixed X-ray with optical imaging, and that's why I end up with holes where resistors should be. The other interesting thing that I found is that you have the dark traces, which signify maybe the top layer of the board, but there are no internal layers or planes on this board, so it's almost like a single layer. But here, right under the component, which kind of looks like a QFN, we have this faint traces that kind of looks like internal layer, but it got mixed. So you can tell the mixed optical and X-ray at the same time. You have traces that go nowhere, like this one here. And the layout itself doesn't really make sense. And of course, this component is completely missing. The vias here you can see on a real X-ray image. The vias are usually open. These vias are all plugged with solder. This is what a resistor looks like. So you have the fillets of the solder, and the resistor itself, the film is very light, so it doesn't have a lot of radio opacity, so it ends up being transparent. And you can see here, maybe that's what they're going for, but it went too far and created basically a hole on the PCB. You should have seen something underneath. And capacitors are very dark. The dielectric material of the capacitor is very radio opaque, and that's why they show up dark on the image. And here, I don't see any capacitors. Maybe that's a capacitor, who knows? Anyway, see the traces. You can see on this X-ray image, the vertical traces on one layer, horizontal layer traces on the layer underneath, and then more vertical traces on the next layer. And here it's a one layer with something that looks like a different layer on the other side. So interesting. We're not there yet for sure with a true X-ray image out of ChatGPT, but who knows, by tomorrow, this might be greatly improved. So let's look at another image. Here's another cool one. This is an iPhone synthetically generated by ChatGPT and a real X-ray of an iPhone. You can tell that you got some big things right. Yeah, sort of right? The three cameras here on the top left, and the big battery, even though we got the shape of the battery wrong. Since iPhone 10, Apple has been using this L-shaped battery that ChatGPT missed here. And then we have some big blocks of things on the X-ray image, or synthetically generated X-ray image. And you can see that AI tried to get traces on the PCB, but again, on a board like this, the traces are so small, there's no way you can see any of them with this level of magnification. Again, this is compared to the other ones we've seen so far. I would say this is one of the lower tier ones. Again, it got the big details sort of right, but definitely missing a lot of the critical things to make this look like a real X-ray image. So let's look at the next one. Here's another fun one. Coffee makers, we all love coffee, right? So on the left, you have a synthetically generated coffee maker X-ray machine using ChatGPT. On the right is a Keurig, right? Another coffee maker that we have here in our office. It's pretty cool. Can actually see the little pods from the Keurig inside. I take it back. This is an espresso. Yeah, that's an espresso. So they're the pods, the aluminum pods. That's why you can see them with the X-ray. But looking at the synthetically generated, it kind of looks like a coffee maker. And you can see the kettle, the pot here. What looks like a heating for the water, heating element. Again, the lighter colors are denser objects, and this, you will never be able to see this on an X-ray image unless it's made of metal, which is not. It's made of plastic. and the filter would be kind of hard to see on an X-ray image. And finally, what I thought was very cute is that they dropped a piece of electronics in the corner saying, well, you should have some electronics to control this device. So just toss one in the corner and hope that looks reasonable. Anyway, this would be also a lower tier synthetic image, when compared to the complexity of an actual coffee maker. So let's look next. All right, this is a cool one that Tony sent me. So on the left, we should have a synthetically generated AI image of a component. On the right is what a real component looks like, and this one is mounted on a PCB. But here on the left, you see that the pad around, which is kind of interesting on a component. Pads are usually not round, they are rectangular like this one, and you have this traces here on the lid frame that I don't know, maybe they're trying to mimic the wire bones, but I ended up with this heavy traces on the lid frame, and of course there's no die on this component. So this is definitely one of the lowest tiers that we've seen so far out of our AI synthetically generated images. Let's see what's next. Here's another synthetically generated AI image of an object that we X-ray all the time. These are ballistic plates. On the left, you have the synthetically generated, the AI image from ChatGPT. On the right, a real image of ballistic plate. So as you can see here on the left, it seems that it's a very, very light plate, right? So it's almost like a Kevlar vest, but unlike a Kevlar vest, it has this dark, dense frame and a very structured pattern inside the image, almost like a ceramic plate with a lot of cracks and a lot of features. So don't really know exactly what this means. It kind of looks like a ballistic plate. It got the outline correct, but definitely the internals do not represent an X-ray image. Sorry, Tony, this one is a low tier as well. Let's see if Tony can come up with a good synthetic AI generated X-ray image here for us, guys. We'll see. What's next, Tony? All right, here's another one that Tony's attempt to impress us with ChatGPT AI generated X-ray images. Now what we have here looks like a toaster on the left and a real X-ray image of a toaster. AI on the left, real X-ray on the right. On the right here, you can see all the details of the heating elements, the connectors here, and the mechanics that pop the toast up once it reaches the correct temperature for the limited amount of time. On the left, on the other hand, the synthetic image is interesting. You can see what looks like a heating element. It kind of found somewhere, which is very interesting. And I don't really know what that is. Maybe that's the shaft that pops the toast once it's done, but in reality, it really doesn't look like that. And what I also thought very interesting, that it popped this electronic, like generic circuitry here, just like it did with the coffee maker, right? It does a bunch of mechanical stuff, and oh, this is an electronic product. So let's throw a piece of electronics to show this as a, electronically component controlled appliance. So sorry, Tony, that's low tier as well. Let's keep trying. AI advances fast, and pretty soon we're gonna have perfect X-ray images that are synthetically generated by AI. So as you can see, AI is not there yet in generating X-ray images of common objects, from appliances to electronics to components. It's evolving, it's getting better, and we'll keep tracking it and show you and share with you when we get to the point where AI generated X-ray images are as good as the real stuff. And don't forget to subscribe and send us your comments. Let us know what else you'd like to see in our channel. Thanks for watching.